Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's been a few weeks since I posted a video, and I wanted to just follow up with a few things about stripping all these body panels. Little bit of discussion on the group about best way of going about it. As I said in the past, the liquid stripper is just completely ineffective, and with these particular panels I'm thinking, just looking at them, probably 9-10 coats of product, because obviously it's been resprayed since the original, so it was quite a challenge to get it all off. Now, I spoke to some of the members about removing with a heat gun. I couldn't find my heat gun anywhere. But I was a little nervous also of using the heat. You know, I'm pretty familiar with those kind of stripping methods with the furniture, but obviously with something as large as the hood there, I'm just being extremely cautious. And I kind of actually enjoy the mechanical stripping myself, just getting into it, and also it leaves a lovely etch for the first coat of epoxy to grab onto. So that being said, I was just using the same method on this as I have the other panels that I already showed you. Especially with the hood, because it's such a large space here, there's obviously support beams underneath here, under the structure of the 109. But here, as you can see, there's no support there. So I mentioned it on the group, I'm moving a lot. I'm not staying in any one point for very long at all. You know, 2 or 3 passes, then I move on and just keep myself working my way round and till it's all gone. Because last thing you want to do is introduce too much heat and you'll end up getting oil canning and then all manner of problems. So this stripped up really nicely. I'll give you a close-up. I've gone over it with a conditioning drum as well, so it leaves a nice scratch. And what I'll do now is treat it with the acid etch, chemically etch it, make sure there's no any risk of particles of rust hidden in little crooks and crevices, and then I can store this off to the side before it gets epoxied. I've still got a little bit of work to do on the fenders to get them to this stage. So let me give you a little close-up and show you what kind of finish it's done. So hopefully you can see that. It's left a nice scratch on there, which will give a nice bite for the epoxy. It's a lot of work, but I say one other thing with doing it mechanically, you get to examine every little square inch of the panel. You know, you can see any little defects and make a mental note if there's any thing that needs later correcting. But you can see the metal is in really nice shape. I think I noticed one tiny little dent. I can't remember where it was now, but you can see the hood's in really nice shape. And these little paint areas here that I will just scuff sand. I don't have to get everything out, every little crook and cranny. You know, I'll just make sure they're thoroughly scuff sand for the epoxy to bite. And I'm taking us down the first coat of epoxy to this leading edge here, and then I can flip it over and give the other side a couple of coats. So yeah, very happy with that. So moving on from the trunk lid, it's the next day by the way, and it's still hot. It's about 95 right now, but I had a good old clear up yesterday, kind of get my head, you know, like clearing the bench and get a fresh look at it, you know. So anyway, setting aside the hood, which is in great shape, and in the other room now all acid etched. Wanted to move on to show you how I'm prepping all the doors. Obviously in the other videos you saw me stripping and getting all the gubbins out of the doors. So on the inside there's no evidence of any white, and it's just a factory blue coating, which I'm obviously not going to try and take all that down to metal. So I'm just using the red Scotch-Brite, scuffing up all of the little details, all the little contours, you know, taking so there's no shine left, to give the primer, epoxy primer, something to bite to. There's areas where it's gone to bare metal that will get treated and primed, and so this door is in good shape, as I say. Just going over that, the other side is stripped and treated. On the inside where the drainage holes, making sure that any tar type substances clean out of there, and I'm using a rush conversion, Permatex, treating all that several times, and then I'll seal that up with some frame coating of some kind, and then that will get painted up, and that should be good to go. So yeah, I've been just scuffing, normal Scotch-Brite pad, pretty easy getting all those areas to scuff up. And if those of you who have not sprayed before, this gives you the opportunity also with primer as well, so because it's not as crucial as the top coat obviously, but give you an opportunity to practice your gun skills and spray patterns and overlap and all that, and so you get yourself familiar with it. And I was thinking the other day, I was working down in the shop doing furniture and thinking about this project, and people that are not familiar with spraying, what would be a good practice? Go and buy yourself some cheap paint, a quarter of a Rust-Oleum or something for $20, and just practice, see why it comes out. You can pretty much match the approximate viscosity of spraying auto paint, and just practice, familiarize yourself with the way the gun's set up, the fan, the volume, the spray pressures, atomization, all that good stuff. And maybe you've got a scrap piece of metal, a door or good or something you can practice on. And barring that, even cheaper, you could just load the gun up with thinners, just so some material's coming through the gun, and you just kind of get the flow going, so you're not frightened of it. Certainly not going straight into top coat without any practice. That would be asking for trouble. But anyway, so this is all I'm doing on this door. Let me set this one aside. I'll finish this up in a bit. I want to show you the other doors and a few issues with one particular door that we've got to correct before we can go any further. Now, this is the rear passenger door that let's think, rear driver's side passenger door that again was always blue. Went a bit more aggressive on this one. It's all been Scotch-Brited. I've gone through in a few places, but it's all been treated with the acid air. As you can see, this hole here is supposed to be perfectly circular. This is where all the wiring, the vacuum tubes and the power windows come through, and this, due to moisture getting in there, has damaged this piece of metal here. It's a little tricky to get to, so I'm going to have to make a patch here, patch that all in, and then re-drill the hole. It comes up onto this ledge, so this is kind of a little tricky area I've got to patch. There's also a ledge here. That's for a later video, but that has to be addressed. I'm not just going to treat it an epoxy primer. That will bug the hell out of me. So we'll get that sorted out. That is the only problem with this door, I believe. Outside panel's really good. Let me show the other one we have a little issue with. Right, this one is the one we repaired some time ago on the bottom edge here. It was the white one, the remaining white one. You can see all the white paint at the top there. At first look, it looks in great shape. A little bit of rust had accumulated around the mounting holes for the side trim. Overall, the metal's good. Slight waviness to the panel here that we'll have to correct with a dolly, hammer and dolly. But on closer inspection, before I stripped this door, there was a lot of crazing here. And one of the members in the Facebook group, I think they were, I think on the 108, 109 group actually on Facebook, they were complaining on their 10845 that they had some cracking, and it could either be too much material or body filler. And this had a similar look here, a lot of cracking in this area. Once I took it off, I realised that this is the only panel that I found so far that was filled to such an excessive degree. The filler failed, obviously, because it's loaded up. It's not supposed to be done like that. If you're going to use filler, and makes sense to me, just very sparingly. And some real hardcore bodywork guys won't even use it. They'll use just lead. So let me show you what I found with a straight edge. Now, just shooting across the panel from the bottom of the door, check this out. So that is where the trim sits. It's a straight edge. Look at that big gap there where it dips down quite obviously, and then we come into the field here. Look at that. I mean, that's getting on for 3/8, closing in at 1/2 inch there. I mean, he had doped up filler, all that. I mean, he was asking for trouble, wasn't he? And I'll just pan. You can see we're touching on both sides here, so we've got to correct that before we load this up with start putting epoxy on. Obviously there's going to be still minor corrections with you know, with the oh, what's it, the primer, you know, the surfacer, but we can't have that like that. I'm certainly not going to be doping filler onto that, so we've got to pull this panel up. Now, question for you guys, flipping the door over here, see, so a problem is, you know, access to in here. I'm trying to come up with an idea. We've got to get some pressure here. I could possibly, I'm just thinking out loud now, where those holes are for the trim, attach some kind of puller bar, you know, as they use those dent pullers with the sliding hammer type affair on there. Could set something up on there, maybe with a metal strip along here connecting to it and then just pulling it out that way. But that, I don't think is going to get anything on the field here. Obviously I need pressure to push this way and then off dollying all around. That's from my understanding, but as I say, I'm not a bodywork guy. I'll make that confession. This is my first time doing a car, to be honest with you, so I'm just doing it as methodically as I can and picking up as many tips as I can and using my background to restoration in furniture to apply it to this job. So I'd love some input on that. Obviously we've got an access situation here, and essentially we've just got to get that panel popped out as best we can and as straight as possible before I go any further on this. Let me pan out again. As you can see, I've done my drainage holes. I copied the drainage holes location from the other door, because this is all new. I remember I made that some time ago, and all this is new along here because that was all rotted, wasn't it? And I think I've already mentioned this in past videos, but see this strip here, that's your 4-inch extension strip for an SEL model. See the two switches here, that switch would be here on the SE model, so they just put a strip in the metal there and extended the door. Kind of fun that. So this one I took down further because it had more material on there, and then it's kind of dulled because it's got acid etch on it. As I say, what I've been doing whenever I've seen evidence of rust, I've been treating it with Permatex to treat the affected areas. This is obviously a vulnerable area here. It's an outside of the door where the, you know, the brush, the window brush sits and can trap moisture. I'm just going to treat that while it's exposed here, and when the door's up I'm going to do all the door bottoms as well. I mean, like I say, this could be a maintenance thing as well when you go in and do your lubrication of your runners, your regulators. Could check the bottoms of the doors. Alright, leave that to react. Do the bottom of the door, get the other door up. Alright, this is the final door. Just treated all this area again. There's a tiny bit of surface rust developing there. Might as well do it while you got the door at this stage. I wanted to show you another area that is I didn't realise they were prone to it, but on the 3.5 that ended up going to Sweden, he had some issues in one of the upper rails, and you can see surface rust starting to develop here behind where the door seal is. So it's another area to check. Moisture gets trapped, and you know, we start getting some rust developing. So I'm going to treat that along with other little spot areas that I found. As I've been telling you, I've been using this acid etch that I got from Eastwood, I think it was, and that seems to be working fine, just to make sure nothing flash rusts while I get everything ready. But there's another product. I was watching a guy, Sylvester Customs, and he's in Southern California, and it's pertinent to me because California restrictions on certain products. It's no good me watching someone out of state and I can't get their product. So I zoned in on this guy, Sylvester Customs. He's got a body shop down in LA, I guess, but very good teacher. I mean, showing all these methods. Got far more experience than I have. Like I say, guy got very little to no experience on this stuff, but I've been really following and enjoying his videos. He's a good teacher, and he showed this product which I'd already picked up actually at the local auto. It's called Bodywork, and this is similar to the acid etch. It basically preps the metal for painting, and it leaves etches like a galvanized zinc coating into the metal. And the way he used it, and it's mixed 50-50 with water, sprays on, scrubbed in much the same way with a Scotch-Brite, and then he rinsed it off with a hose pipe, clean water, and then dried it off with a towel, and then from that point on, gloves on so you don't introduce oils from your skin into the bare metal, and from that point on to go to epoxy primer, and it essentially etches the metal and gives an incredibly good bond for the epoxy to lock on, chemically bond and mechanically bond also to the metal. So that's what I think I'll be doing. I'm not going to do anything now except do the acid etch, which is much the same product I think, but when I come to the day of painting or the day before painting, I'm going to treat everything again with this, rinse it down just like he did because he knows what he's doing, and epoxy primer it. Now as far as the paint system that I'm going for, obviously I've spoke to you before about the single stage. I'm going single stage, and if I remember I'll put a link into the description of what convinced me to do single stage. I always wanted to do it for originality purposes, but this article I think will sway a few of you towards single stage. Made a lot of sense to me anyway. That aside, obviously the original paint was Glazerite, and now we've got the number Glazerite 22 single stage. Now I'm having a little trouble locating an outlet in California. I believe there's one down in San Jose. I'm waiting to hear back. I've got a few contacts out and a few people in the group as far as locating the Glazerite system, but I think we may run into trouble having that shipped to me in California. But that being said, we want to try and stay within a same family of products, if it's Glazerite, PPG, all that stuff. So from my understanding, again, you want to stay with one manufacturer to make sure that there's no conflict of materials. And in my eagerness when I first started this project, I bought some epoxy primer from Eastwood because I thought, oh, I'll get some epoxy primer, but it's still in the cupboard and I'm not going to use it on this product on the outer shell. I may use it on the inner panels and mask them off from everything else and use them on the inner panels where it doesn't matter as much, and I don't think I'm going to have any issue with it, but I'm going to stick with the one product line on the outer body and the rest of the car. Or I might just save it for small projects, I'll see yet. But so we're going to hopefully go with Glazerite or PPG, which is another high quality paint manufacturer made in the United States. I believe they're used on Ferraris and things like that. But so we're going to go epoxy, surface of primer, order blocking, and then the single stage. Another quick reminder, obviously there's so many parts that are coming off these doors and all various parts of the car. Really be diligent about keeping them all bagged and boxed. Each of these doors has its own separate box, driver's side front, driver's side rear, all that, and they're all boxed up, all the parts. Even if you think you're going to get rid of them, just chuck them in there, bolts, fastenings, all that stuff, so they're at hand when you come to reassemble, or when you're replating things in that nature. So I've been through a few itinerations of boxing things up. When I started to get overwhelmed, I stopped, made sure everything was in the right, and then regroup again. So it's very easily to get in the excitement of getting things moving, things are flying all over the place, and you end up losing stuff, and it's just going to slow you down in the end. So now moving on from the doors, you can see we've got this fender pretty much stripped, a little bit more detail here. That one is partially done. I just pushed it against the wall so I'd have more room. I'll pull that out in the next few days and get that one finally stripped, taking off the little catches that hold the The headlight assembly, question for you guys, were those painted, factory painted, or were they plated, those little hooks there? Guess it doesn't matter. I'm assuming they were just painted, but anyway, while they're off. Filled in other reflector hole on this fender. That's gone in really nicely. And so, yeah, everything's looking really good. Once I get those off, completely removed, then I can finalise the engine bay as far as the little couple of patches left to do there. And then we're going to spend quite a few hours taking all that down, prepping it just like we did the doors, hood, trunk, all that stuff, and get that in epoxy. And then we can kind of take a break from that and then start probably leaping down this side of the car and hitting all the rust areas on this side, prepping ourselves for the monstrous side on the other side, which I think a large portion of that is going to have to go on the rotisserie, which I haven't built yet. So saving my pennies for the metal. Have you seen the price of metal lately? It's gone up there. So that's the intention. So we can do that, and then we'll turn the old car around and do that. We obviously, when we do start taking large pieces of metal away from the structure of the car, obviously it needs to be braced because it's unibody. So we'll be doing a crisscross pattern in the door frames. I've got some ideas of welding plates, make it all solid so we don't get any alignment issues down the line. One more thing before I go, also for those of you that have been following the rear axle rebuild and the front subframe rebuild, those have been put on hold. You probably know that, just so I can get some bodywork done, and also because we've had the expense of the big vet bill. I thought I'd jump onto things that's just mainly labour, where it's just my labour and fairly inexpensive materials. So I am going to be jumping on that very soon. Sold my motorcycle to free some funds up. That's going in the next few weeks, so that'll be good. Because there's still some parts to buy for the rear axle. I've got most of the bearings, the seals, and what have you, but we do have to have that homokinetic slip joint, which is anywhere from $700 to $1,000 for that little tiny joint there. So I've been kind of holding on that. And then obviously the setup, making sure we get all the pinion dialed in correctly, and backlash and rotational torque, all that good stuff. But I'll get my head around that in the coming months. So well, obviously we need the axles, don't we? So and also as far as the front subframe, we've got some obviously brake lines and air lines and all. Well, the air line connection to the two valves have got to be mounted. That's just kind of on a hold at the moment. And I'm going to be redoing the rear chambers, you know, the shocks chambers on the rear, painting those up that color match red again. So, and then there's a myriad of suspension components, you know, bumper irons. There's so much to do, so many videos to come. So I just wanted to let you know about that. I hadn't forgotten those pieces. Please let me know if you want to see more or less of certain things, and I really appreciate all your feedback and your really kind comments. It really means a lot to me. And don't worry, I'm still marching on with this. I know there's been some larger gaps between videos, but that's just purely because of the different things going on here. And also you got to remember, I've got the other two 108s that I like to maintain and run and shoot videos on those occasionally. But we're not in any rush, you know, that's the main thing. Take your time, enjoy what you're doing, and because what's the point of rushing, you know? Just enjoy the process, and at the end we get to drive it around. And as I say, this thing's going to be no garage queen, it's going to be driven the hell out of. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. I'm going to put a link into the workshop videos that I have been watching from Sylvester Customs. I think you'll get a lot out of that. And I've talked before about Fitz's Fabrications, great guy, a lot of good knowledge, simple tools again, stuff that's well within the scope of the home builder. And also with Sylvester Customs, you know, orientating in simple steps that you can definitely take on yourself and enjoy and save yourself some money. Possibly in another video I'd like to talk about budget, how the budget's going on this and what I've spent so far. Maybe some of you be interested on that, and what I try to do to, you know, mitigate some of the expenses and all that. So thanks again for watching, guys. Please hit like, share, subscribe if you like what you see, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.